Well, why don't we get rolling? And before I mute everybody, the button has suddenly appeared. We have one or two more people joining us. I just want to welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're with us. I'm really looking forward to today. And I think if it's all right with you, what we like to do this time is just go right into the presentation and do our little go round and chatting afterwards. Um, Beth, we're a bunch of coaches and happy people. We do all kinds of different things. We're a very receptive audience. So if you need to know anything about us, ask while you're talking. All right. I hope that's all right with everybody. And we'll just dive right in and we'll all chat, give our go around, any announcements, any discussions at the end of the meeting. That way, if some people sometimes have to leave a little early.
So I know I recognize a number of your faces, but not everyone. So I'll share. My name is Beth Slezak. I'm with the Creative Education Foundation. For those of you who are involved in the creativity and innovation world, CEF is kind of the OG of the creative problem solving organizations. And we're also the ones who run the Creative Problem Solving Institute that in the before times was held in Buffalo in June. And now it's held in Zoom. We had our breakout conference in June, and right now we are in the midst of our core creative problem solving training sessions. I did want to share with you one thing that we're having this week, I believe it's Wednesday, is how to do engaging sessions online. So a lot of it is like Zoom friendly, because that's the format that we think works the best, but most of the tips and tricks that we give you work on any kind of Zoom format. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you to do is to share your name and where you're logging in from and something of which you're proud on the chat.
And I'm going to go first because I neglected to introduce you because I was thrown by my internet going down and the small wave of panic that arose when I couldn't log in. So my name's Leslie Austin. I'm an executive coach. I've just recently, I deal with difficult behavior problems and personalities, get people to behave better. And I've recently started a whole new program called Emotional Mastery. And I'm going to introduce you now, and then we'll go through the go-round, all right? So Beth Slezak, happy to welcome you, holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Buffalo in History and Dance, a Social Studies certification in Education from Buffalo State, and a Master's of Science in Creative Studies from Buffalo State. And she has completed a 3-year Certified Humor Professional program and is in UVille's MBA program. She spent time at every level of the education world, from elementary to college, instructing minds in the tools and techniques of creativity. Beth has led many creative problem-solving workshops, providing professional development skills to people in Canada, Mexico, Italy, and all over the U.S. She trains and facilitates others to solve their own challenges, from factory floor renovations to better parenting, and hopefully to being better coaches. So that's Beth. Thank you.
And thank you, Leslie. I'm starting to see everybody logging in, chatting on where they're from. Deb, Rochester. I tell people that I'm coming in from Buffalo, but I'm halfway between Buffalo and Rochester. I live near Darien Lake, and if you know that area, you know what that means. If you don't, then nobody does. But I'm excited about seeing things that you guys are adding to the chat about what you're proud of. If you are looking for chat, down on the bottom of your screen, there's a little voice bubble thing, and you can click on that and chat will come up and you can type into it. But seeing all of these things of which you're proud, I'm so happy to see that. We often forget to give ourselves kudos because we look at what we haven't done on our to-do list and forget to look at what we have done and how fantastic that is. And that's going to play into growth mindset. So I came up with this idea for this session a while ago, and I was also working on something with improv and writing. And if you're familiar, there's the hero's journey. It's a common format for storytelling. If you look down at the bottom, you start in the ordinary world. This is where we live, what's going on, and then you see our hero get a call to action. They need to do something. Generally speaking, the first time they pass. I pass. No, I'm good. I'm good. Because a call to be a hero involves something hard. Um, Getting up out of bed is not a hero's journey for everyone. Sometimes it is. And if that's your hero's journey, more power to you. I get it. There are days when that's what I list, what I'm being proud of. But often the hero starts with a refusal, then they meet a mentor who inspires them to do something. Finally, they move on to commit to that journey. They make allies and enemies, because that's what we need in our story, that challenge. Then they go through the ordeal and they end up with a reward, and then they take the road back home. So this is the path. And if you would like, in chat again, share some of your favorite stories that follow this line. One of my favorite to use is Harry Potter. Call to action. The owls get sent to him all the letters and they get turned down immediately. And then eventually he meets Hagrid and he commits to going to Hogwarts. He meets Ron and Hermione. They go through the ordeal, which is everything that happens in all of the books. And finally, the reward is that, I feel like, spoiler alert, he defeats Voldemort. I don't know if the series has been out for 20 years, so I hope you know that. And then gets the reward, and you finally see him as an adult with children. So if you've got some storylines that you love, heroes' journeys, you can go and put those in chat right now. And then I'm going to oh, Siddhartha, awesome. I'm going to ask you to engage if you can. I know this works on laptops. So if you're on an iPad or on a phone, this might look different. But as I'm sharing my screen, at the top of your screen, you can see in green, it says Beth Slezak screen. And then it'll say, there's a menu, and you can click on that menu. And one of the options will be to annotate. And you can click down, and that opens up another menu, and you can click on draw. So I'm going to ask you to do that, because our next thing we're going to do, I need to stop doing that, because then I can't click forward, is our call to action. It's a timed word search. So you know how to do word search. The words are listed there on your right side. I am going to time you, and you can circle as many as you can find in a minute. I love how wine got circled pretty quickly. Like that, you see what you care about. All right. Oh, you can keep going. We still have 25 seconds. Oh, you can keep going. Sorry. Oh, we got 10 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh. All right. So stop that. So now I'm going to ask you, how did it feel when I kept clearing your drawings while you were trying to do something? You can share in the chat We're a smaller group, so I don't know if you have powers to unmute yourself.
So I wasn't sure if you were clearing it or not, but you kept saying sorry every time you did it. And I'm like, huh?
How did you feel every time like it got cleared?
I didn't mind because it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Ooh, that's a great thing to bring up, like things that have low value, high value. It's an online thing for a session, not a huge, you don't have a lot of investment.
Right.
Are there any type A's who are like, I need to get all of the words done?
I was kind of there. It was like every time it cleared, I was more determined to get it back on there and make sure that it was there and that mine were all seen.
Yes, because I did them, Danielle. Oh, Mona, felt like a loss. Yeah.
So I think that it could have been clearer on the instructions. I just started seeing words and circling them and wasn't paying attention to the list of words next to the thing.
I just
It's
got
like-
curious about why you were doing that.
So why I was doing that is to put us in a false sense of heightened awareness and maybe frustration. When we are living, especially in this day and age, we are very detailed, action step oriented. I was having a discussion this morning with my coworker about the mindset of morality and chores, and how most of us were raised with, you're a good girl if you've made your bed and you've done your chores. And psychologists are asking us not to do that now because our morality is not tied to what we've done. The dark side of that is then we don't feel like we deserve to sit down and rest until we've done everything, and we'll never finish everything. There is always one more dish. There's always another load of laundry, and that constant state of having to get the stuff done before we're allowed to take care of ourselves puts us in a hamster wheel of exhaustion. So what we see is people living in a fixed mindset. And if you're familiar with Carol Dweck, she's the one that put out the growth mindset. And educators are loving this. Any therapists and psychologists are loving this. And this is something that is finally leaking into everyday understanding. But it's still important, if we're familiar with this concept, to remind ourselves. Because if we are familiar with it, we are at a state of conscious practicing at the most part, instead of unconscious practicing. And that is like a baby learning to walk. They're consciously practicing. They have to think about what they're doing, and then they get I call it the Frankenstein walk. You, when you walk, for the most part, are back to unconscious practicing. You don't have to think about it. You just go. There's no point you're like, okay, I need to raise my right foot. I need to put my right foot forward. I need to put it down. Okay, shift my weight onto that right foot. Now left foot, I need to that. We don't need to think about that as much now as we become adults, until we flip to the other side where we have to think about it, or we've been engaged in an injury. That's like fixed mindset. Once we become aware of fixed and growth mindset, we want to keep pushing, keep reminding ourselves so that we get to a point where we don't have to think about it. Now, fixed mindset, what that looks like is avoiding challenges. This is too hard, I give up. If you've had children or worked with children, you've seen that hit very quickly, very easily. In my family, around math, I can't do it. I give up. I can't do this homework anymore. I can't do this project. I give up. Or avoiding it. Seeing effort as fruitless or worthless, like it doesn't matter. This is just the way I am. That's that fixed mindset. And another thing, finally, like ignoring useful feedback if it's negative, and feeling threatened by the success of others. Somebody's win is not your loss. It's, if you're familiar with the diminishing pie theory, we've got a pie, and if anybody takes a slice of success, then there's less slices of success for me. That's not true, because we each have our own full pie, and any success with somebody else is a success. It doesn't affect our successes at all. So this is our refusal. Our initial backup on our journey is that we don't want to do it. So our next on that is our call to action. And this is where Carol Dweck put out, you will see exactly how one thing does lead to other, how a belief that your qualities are carved in stone leads to a host of thoughts and actions that we don't need, that are not true, and how a belief that your qualities can be cultivated leads to a host of different thoughts and actions, taking you down an entirely different road. So understanding that having a growth mindset is our call to action, that we can be making changes and that we can have our own growth. So I want to talk about some growth mindset around growth mindset. So asking ourselves, when is good enough? Do we have to live in a constant state of great? Or is good enough good enough? How do we determine our level of success? Do we have to keep on achieving and achieving until we are okay and worth it? How many degrees do we need to pile up? How many letters of recommendations do we need to have before we finally are allowed to accept ourselves for who we are? Where is perfection needed and where is it not? I love to have my bed made, and I admit that I do go through and like tighten it up after my husband does his side of it. And also, doesn't matter because I am going to get in that bed in another 18 hours, and the perfection of the bed being made, what I need is the bed made. What I don't really need are hospital corners. That's not where I have to have my perfection. Where we want to see perfection. Pilots. I want pilots to be working under perfection. I want my accountant to be working under perfection. I want my recipe for stew to be good enough. These are things like things that I need to have perfection and things that really don't need to be perfect. And then what are the sacrifices that should and should not happen? Am I going to have a fight with my husband because he hasn't pulled the corners tight enough in the bed? I'm not going to lie. Maybe sometimes I am. It depends on how I'm doing that day. But I don't need to have that fight, because that's a sacrifice of disrest in my family that should not happen. Am I going to speak to my children when they're driving that they need to be braking before the stop sign? Because that is when sacrifices should happen. We need to have that perfection at that point. Yes, I am. So what can we do? We've got our call to action. We've got our refusal. We've met with our mentor. We've understood what our growth mindset is and why we should do it. So now let's commit to that journey. And this is a tool that I love. Facts, feelings, hunches, and unanswered questions. And I think so much around growth mindset is how we're feeling and how other people are making us feel and how we're making other people feel. And so that is an area that we have a lot of potential for emotional hijacking. Growth mindset calls into some deep-seated beliefs about ourselves and the world And sometimes what we need to do is examine the reality of us. So facts, feelings, hunches, and unanswered questions. Now, I've included in this one some questions to get you started, but I'd ask you to think about a situation that you're involved in, home, work, community, about what you need growth mindset around. And I'm going to give you a little time to jot some things down about some facts about it, some feelings, some hunches around it, and some unanswered questions. And I really would like you to experience this fully. So I'm going to ask you to actually participate. I'm going to give you a minute. I'm not going to ask you to do it for long, and a minute is a lot longer than it sounds like. So go ahead and start thinking about you can do just your growth mindset or a situation around which you need some growth mindset. So about 20 more seconds. And please feel free to take this tool with you in the future. Just because we need to get moving doesn't mean you have to stop this. And you can pick this up in a few minutes when we're done. And if you're a screenshot person or you've got your phone and you want to take a picture of this, please feel free. At work, we use the term jazz hands. Jazz hands to do this. Go ahead and do that. I wanted to include a blink one for anybody who wanted that. So commit to our journey by taking action. The next step on the hero's journey is allies and enemies. And here are our list of allies and enemies. Enemies are self-talk. And these are the things that you might catch yourself saying. And then your allies are what you can say instead. So when you say or think, self-talk is huge. Do not underestimate how much more often you engage in self-talk and how detrimental or inspiring it can be. When you want to say or think, I'm not good at this, instead, I want you to think, what am I missing? What else needs to happen? What else can I use? Instead of, I'm awesome at this, because that cement belief is one that inhibits our growth. I want you to think, I'm on the right track. Instead of, I give up, think, I'll use some of the strategies that I have learned. And if you don't have strategies, Google strategies. There are lots of them, like the facts, feelings, and hunches that I gave you. Instead of, this is too hard, I want you to think, okay, this is going to take some time and some effort. Instead of, I can't make this any better, I want you to think, I can always improve, so I'm going to keep trying. Instead of, I just can't do math, because that's the example I use all the time, I'm going to train my brain. So instead of, I can't do Zoom, or I can't do email, or I can't do TikTok, because why not? I'm going to train my brain to be able to do those. Instead of I made a mistake and focusing on that, how about thinking mistakes help me to learn better? And instead of he or she or they are so smart, I'll never be that smart. Comparisons are odious. I'm going to figure out how she does it so that I can try. And instead of it's good enough, fine, whatever. Is this really my best work? And is this necessary? And then instead of plan A just didn't work, think about good thing that there are 25 more letters in the alphabet. So those are our allies and our enemies, our self-talk and what we can say instead. And then this is our ordeal, going from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. So looking at challenges and embracing them. Thank you, 2020, for giving us the opportunity to embrace so many challenges. We're starting to work on 2021. I'm like, oh, that poor year. I have so many expectations for you. You need to make up for a lot of stuff. Instead of using obstacles to give up, keep going, keep working. Instead of seeing your effort as wasted, see it as a step on the path to mastery. Instead of avoiding feedback, taking criticism and learning from it. Also taking it with a grain of salt. Criticism about your work is not criticism about who you are as a human. My Spanish is pretty craptastic, but I'm not craptastic. It's just my Spanish. And I can continue to learn. So yes, there are Spanish flashcards in my bathroom because you got a minute there. And instead of feeling threatened by the success of others, find lessons and inspiration in the success of others so that you can live your best life. And once you've done that, you can use this for everything. So set a goal. Does this meet your values? Find a mentor. Identify who your enemies or your allies are. Practice. Make sure you're giving it your best effort. And then evaluate. And how you know is, can you teach somebody else in it? Remember, success does not necessarily equal perfection. So if any of you can teach me Spanish words, you're better at it than I am, and I can use your ally. And if you are a screenshot person, or you want to take a picture with your camera, or give me a high sign that you're like, hold on, I'm writing this out, I'll be cool. This is like the hero's journey. This is our path through it. And once you have completed your ordeal, you get your reward. And your reward is the power of yet. So anything that is stymieing you or stumping you, that's where you pull out your power of yet. So my Spanish, I cannot be understood by a Spanish speaker yet. My math skills are not fantastic yet. My understanding of accounting is not strong yet. All of those things are things that I am personally working on right now. And then our road back home is where we continue to practice this and live it so that we can become those unconscious practitioners of growth mindset. So I think I've used my time up. I want to be very careful that I don't overuse your time because time is so beautiful now. But I would like, if there's any questions, I will try to answer them.
Actually, please feel free to elaborate if you want to, and I'd like to invite everybody to participate. Let's have a great conversation here. So remember just to unmute yourself. It's on the lower left of your screen or on the top right if you hover over your picture in Zoom. Anyone?
Who's familiar with growth mindset? Let's start some seeding questions. Yes. Well, I know Phyllis is. So those of you who this is brand new, how does that feel to you? Does that ring true, or is this like, dang, I need to reevaluate everything I've ever done? Give me a thumbs up because I can see y'all now. Give me a thumbs up if you're like, ooh, dang it, yes. All right. Is there anybody who's like, you can be okay, Mona, good, like completely honest. It's like, oh, that whole like morality versus around chores was, I was talking with my coworker. I'm like, do you see the slap mark? I feel like I was just slapped in the face. And so like these growth mindset and all of these things, as we struggle to continue to engage in learning and keep our mind and our spirit active, it widens your understanding of what you don't know. And you're like, oh, so here's another thing I need to deal with.
I wonder if anybody has a specific situation that they want to play with the group following this model. Is anybody looking at something that you feel like kind of stuck with or don't know what to do with and you'd like to play with it?
I've been given yet another opportunity to pivot. And so, yeah, I'm happy to play always.
Please.
All right.
Is that all right with you, Beth?
Please.
Yeah, cool. I shifted from focusing on my business and the teaching sales mastery to women entrepreneurs to going into the whole world of suicide prevention, especially teen suicide prevention, when my daughter broke the silence on her attempts as a teenager. So I went that direction. I created a program for suicide prevention advocates and started teaching that, created a nonprofit. Now, courtesy of COVID, we're not seeing a rising tide of suicide. We're seeing a tsunami. And the reality is that people are struggling so much with their mental and emotional stability and resiliency. So I've been challenged to take my suicide prevention training and shift it into resilience mastery for emotional and emotional, social, mental stability. And so I'm going, okay, that's a very different, now we've gone, entrepreneurs, this whole world of suicide prevention, and now it's into something that easily goes into organizational development and, still hits very home because parents are worried out of their minds that their kids are not going to be able to thrive. And we've got employers worried out of their minds that productivity is like a huge downward slide. I don't know if anybody else saw, but some of the larger companies reopened their offices and only 10% of their employees came back to the office because people are afraid of being in a space.
So what's your fixed mindset that you're having trouble with that you need to move to growth mindset?
My fixed mindset is that I won't get all the back end stuff done in order to be able to make this work fast enough to make a difference. Yeah, so I think that's really where I'm stuck is because I also run a summit on suicide prevention. I run the suicide prevention show every other month. So all of the details of that, and now all of the details that have to be put into place to shift. And so that's where I'm kind of stuck. This is, it's also, I'll never figure out how to work with a VA. Yeah. Taking my concept language and trying to break it into minute tasks that I can actually delegate. Yeah. So just all of the details of business that go into this, but trying to shift quickly and stay on track at the same time.
I wonder if I'm thinking of that hero's journey, and if this is a time to call in allies.
Yeah, well, that's like I said, that's what I've been That's, yeah, it's definitely time to call in allies, and everybody has their own opinion. I've got people trying to help me with getting the task done, but this happened at the same moment that I'm shifting from Infusionsoft to Active Campaign. So I've got that running. And it's the details.
It's the details. Would you like to do the facts, feelings, hunches on it?
Sure. I'm willing to guinea pig.
All right. So what are the facts about this?
Well, the facts are that we're dealing with unprecedented times, and the need for resiliency is huge and visible.
You said visible?
It's a very visible issue, and employers are struggling with productivity. The parents are struggling with stress. Yeah, would never say that.
Let's be honest.
No, that's not honest. I'm sorry, but that's not at all honest. I don't think it sucks.
All right, that's fair.
So I don't know how you're going to erase it in this whiteboard environment, but I'll just, there you go. Thank you. But that is a possibility, that's part of the issue, Beth, is that I'm seeing a shift from people who were dealing with survivor guilt if they had someone in their family who took their own life, or our military deal with it when they survive a battle and their battle buddy doesn't. But now we're also seeing thriver guilt, where people who are doing well during this period of time are not feeling like they can share it because everybody else is out there saying 2020 sucks, and they're going, it's the biggest opportunity of my life.
So let's look at some feelings you have. So one thing I'm hearing is like that pervasive. And I'm going to apologize to you all right now. My spelling is not super hot. That pervasive, that things are permanent, pervasive, and personal, and that's the flip side of the truth. So that pervasive, that all of 2020 sucks, and it doesn't all suck. What you're saying is there are aspects that are fine, and so you're feeling that pervasive emotion is exaggerated.
That's a good way to put it. We'll just say emotions are exaggerated. Doesn't matter what they are. Right now, it feels like emotions are exaggerated.
Oh.
Perfection is not required. It's okay.
Yeah. So what are some other feelings you have about this? Something that you have about this?
I have a real mixed bag. I am optimistic that this could be the year of fastest growth in my business. I'm optimistic that this could be the fastest funding for the Teen Suicide Prevention Society, which that money all goes for people to become trained as advocates, or trained in emotional resilience, or trained in business, because all of it fits the vision of making suicide, especially teen suicide, a thing of the past. So most of my feelings are optimistic, and in the background is the struggle to keep other people's potential opinions and judgments other people's, and not let them come in. So like the comment about that you put up about 2020 just sucks, and for me to stand up and say no, yeah, not mine. And that's really the key of emotional resilience is what I'm living through. It's learning how to let other people's opinions be other people's.
So what are some hunches you have around this? What do you suspect might be true?
Okay, so thank you for clarifying what hunches are. What do I suspect might be true? I suspect that people really don't know that they can develop the awareness of, they really don't know that they can develop the awareness of their emotions, thoughts, results. Yeah, they just don't know. That's a hunch that they really don't know.
All right.
And yeah, and so the assumption is that things are out of control and they'll never be in control. And I think that my hunch is that that's the biggest challenge, is people assume things are out of control and beyond their control.
So, what are some unanswered questions that you have around this endeavor?
So unanswered questions. I printed off your thing, so I'll take a peek. What would you like to know the answers to? Okay. That's a really good question. The unanswered questions.
If this isn't coming to mind immediately, then what I think is maybe this is where you need to start working out, because for those of you who are facile in the creative problem solving arena, all challenges are phrased as an open-ended question. So we would say how to, or how might I, or oops. It won't let me add any over here. What might be all of the? So as you look at all of these things are going around,
Beth?
maybe turning them into open-ended questions will help give you some clarity on what you need to be working on.
Okay, I'm hooked because you said something I didn't catch. You said, what might be alza? What's alza?
All the.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. Every once in a while, my buffalo shows through. Smear it all together. So those are statement starters that open up. Let's see. So.
Oh, got it. What might be all the?
Yeah.
Whatever.
What might be all of the assumptions that I'm going to face? How to channel people's assumptions into some positive action? How might I get the word out? What might be all of the ways I can reach my intended audience? And if you start phrasing your challenges as questions, and writing a bunch of them, because you kind of have to come at it like from all of the ways before you really are like, oh, I've written out 50 and these 3 are the ones. And then once you know what your challenge is, generally speaking, it's a lot easier to deal with it.
Yeah.
when you've got the, you're in the mix of ambiguity and unsureness, you
Mhm.
don't know what your steps are. And once you realize what your root challenge is, then you can start facing it. And then you can start channeling your growth mindset at it. Nope, I'm not successful yet, but this is what I need to do. And I can take on this challenge and I can rise above these obstacles and I can get people to come and help me with this because I can ask them to do specific things instead of, I need help. You can be, I need help with somebody setting up Zoom calls for me on Thursdays at noon, giving specific challenges, specific requests for steps that are then helpful to you. Does
I
that
think
make sense?
it's been really helpful to see the process of going through each of the 4 quadrants and the steps for how to approach unpacking a particular situation. Thank you for volunteering to be our helper, Jackie. Sorry, I can't help teasing you. I'm wondering if anybody else has another, maybe quicker example that we can go through that's less complex, because Jackie's is quite profound. That we can run through the model one more time with another situation. Does anybody have anything? Perhaps a smaller issue you just want to sort out while we have Beth with us to guide us through it? Don't all jump at once. Remember, you can unmute yourselves.
Is there a
Mona,
master?
unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. So I work with my clients and I'm teaching them about movement. It's actually a really different mindset. And the mindset and the body set that they need to go from is normally we want to know
Could you
exactly where.
speak louder, Mona?
Okay. No, I work with movement and with my clients. They come to me with some kind of pain in their body. And so my solution isn't just giving them an exercise to strengthen some kind of muscle, but actually looking at how their mind and body, the conversation that their mind and body actually do have. And the fixed mindset that I am really dealing with my clients is what the notion of movement is, because they think movement is like a position or something that you're holding, a noun. But really, movement is about being a verb. And when we're children, we're reaching with our whole body and we're moving our whole body to do activities. But as we evolve and grow up and such, then we think we're economizing and we just start using a gesture. So we lose that notion of the whole body in action. So for me to help them understand and for them to move over to a different mindset of moving and as the baseline and not be, because they're afraid, because their memory in their body is everything you're safe if you can hold on to your position. So that's a big shift. And what you're talking about is really wonderful. I just never even thought about what you're having and having the hero's journey. What a beautiful tool. So the problem I have is helping my clients, and for me to help them, I use images and models and all of that. But to make this shift from holding a position, which is safe, into action, so everything is moving, so the body can free up and change the pattern to lose the pain. So the problem is that shift from being static to being mobile and not being afraid.
What I'm hearing is like that your clients need that growth mindset, that you can be sharing this with them, because I understand the physical change that happens as we age starts mentally first.
Mhm.
And so then it needs to unravel mentally first
Mhm.
before you can get back to that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big yoga fan, and I'm addicted to Yoga with Adrienne. She's delightful, and she talks a lot about that mind body attachment and how we need to not hit a yoga pose. We need to experience what we need to experience,
Mhm.
and the pose is just a picture, but it's not what we need to do. So I'm wondering is if you can collect the things that you hear them saying a lot that are fixed mindset, and you can translate them into a growth mindset for them, so that every time they're like, they give you this feedback, you can say, hey, you have the power of yet. You are endowed with all of the magic of growth mindset. So this is the choice that you need to be making. And I think maybe choice and accountability is really the understanding that they need to have is physical work is never going to be easy. Once we aged past my bones were made out of silly putty and I could do whatever I wanted and nothing hurted, realizing that it's okay that I'm going to struggle with this, because my goal for perfection is not necessarily the Joffrey Ballet. My goal for perfection is to successfully get through my day without unnecessary pain. And so why I'm doing this, why I'm doing these exercises are so that I can grow into the body that I want to have. It's not like size 2 swimsuit model, but the body that I want to have is the one who can pick up the thing that I've dropped. And that I can incorporate all of the training that Mona has given me. Those are my thoughts with that is taking all of those fixed mindset attitudes and creating growth mindset ones for them and sharing, like, we're gonna, this is the self-talk that I want you to have. It's gonna hurt, but it's okay. I am a wave, I am not concrete. I am a cloud, not a skyscraper. And give them those gifts, things that they can hold on to and they can repeat. A lot of times, like, maybe it's just a mantra. I can do this.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's fabulous. Thank you for sharing your amazing work. It's very helpful.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments, concerns? Or I learned another one. Instead of asking, are there any questions, ask, what are the questions? I just learned that one last night and I was like, oh, that's fine. And also for people, a lot of you are doing training. Give me 2 questions was another hint that they had.
That's on the same principle as a mentor of mine gave me a number of years ago when you're presenting a post to a client as a consultant or a coach. He said, always give them 3 options that build on each other. Don't give them only one option, because then you're giving them the opportunity to say a yes or no. If you give them 3 options, they're already out of the no and into, well, which one do I want? You're moving them towards yes already.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What questions do you all have?
Well, I have a little practical question, which is that quadrant with the facts, feelings, unanswered questions. I did not take a screenshot of that. I tend to really just like to listen, but I'm wondering if you'd be willing to distribute that to the people who attended.
Yeah. Let me think of how I can do that.
Or it looks like Jackie.
Or put it, yeah, can you just put it back up on the screen and we can at least take a picture?
Yep.
Yeah, I printed it instead of saving it because I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a kinesthetic. I like to write.
Yeah, I'm not on my computer, so I'm like a little confused about how to do things here.
So I want to clarify this quadrant or the facts, feelings, or hunches, or both.
The facts, feelings, hunches.
I'm actually going to.
If you want to take a screenshot,
Yeah. Screenshot of that.
the old-fashioned way is to press Control and print screen if you're on a Windows computer. There may be another way that I'm not.
I'm on a
I'm
computer person's open source thing
So,
where
Oh, okay.
if
anything.
you hit Control and print screen, won't that also get the pictures of everybody?
It may, yes, but you can always put it in Microsoft Paint and cut it out.
Anyway,
Very
this
good.
is
Anyway.
a small problem of mine. I don't want to take up. Jackie, maybe you just email it to me.
Just
Would you
leave
do
it up
that?
for a second.
How do you
I
get
took screenshots and I thought I could drop them in the chat, but I can't.
Yeah. I'm on a Linux thing with some very odd programs.
Let me know if you need me to change any screens for you.
how do you
I'm
get
not doing it because I don't know how to do things here.
Okay. All right, I saved that one for you, Phyllis. I'll attach it to an email.
Okay, thanks. My problem solved.
When you're talking about this, Beth, where do you see the growth mindset, fixed mindset? Where do you see this conversation being most applicable? You know, where's the demand for this in the marketplace right now?
I do a lot of work training. I work with people who are interested in creative problem solving. So people with challenges, and a lot of times lately our work has been around with educators. So people who are working with children. But I see it being wildly applicable with adults because that fixed mindset has been something that we've kept for so long. But I've used it with teachers, elementary school teachers. I've used it with college students about and that's where I started, was with college students, about that fixed mindset of it's because they are beginning so many new things that it's very easy to be overwhelmed by challenges and to just give up. And also where you see other people Instagram succeeding, not necessarily really succeeding, but what you see as success, feeling less about you and about your success because you don't have insta perfection. And I think that's true at any age. It's very easy to look at, they've got the perfect career, they've got the perfect family, they've got all the best grandchildren who call them all the time, they've got all of the, there's a lot of theys, and they're very busy doing all of the things that we can't seem to do because we're just trying to get up every day. So I think it's wildly important when we find our self-talk being very controlled by the theys.
Also easily see this being used in a corporate consulting situation where, I mean, even product development or having to retool a company, and a lot of companies are having to do that because of the pandemic. They need to have a new business model, or they need to restructure the corporate structure and how many employees they have, et cetera. And if they're really stuck, I could see that going through this process could really open up the brainstorming.
Yeah, that's
would be helpful.
I think COVID has, to go on, Jackie, I think COVID has given us an opportunity because everything that had to be the way that it was could no longer be the way that it was.
Right.
So now it was like we were kind of pushed into that growth mindset of, all right, so how do we do it now?
Right. Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I think that in my field, helping people, especially now baby boomers, look at career options, which many of them need to do, that they have to get into a growth mindset because they've got fixed ideas of what they can do, and they can do much more than they really think. And with the retirement options that I'm working with people who want to do something worthwhile or interesting, they need to be thinking bigger. And so some of the steps I use are not exactly what you've been talking about, but I do help them look at options and backgrounds, and they go through a lot of assessment, and it changes their mind about, well, maybe I can do that, or maybe I can buy a franchise, and I didn't think I could because there's thousands of them. So I'm constantly, over many, many years, helping people get out of the stuck mindset that they have.
I think you said baby boomers, one of the big things is the view of technology. We've become such a technology dependent world, especially because of COVID, because technology offers us safety, a little more safety for our health. And that frustration, if it's super foreign to us, is I can't do this, I'm just not good at it. And no one in the world is born knowing how to do Zoom.
Right.
No one was. And it's just figuring it out. And it's okay to fail at it the first time, the first 10 times. And that struggle with, so how do I mute myself? How do I unmute myself? And all of those things, like that is probably the most noticeable growth mindset opportunity in the past year. So much so that it's jokes now for Geico, no, one of the car insurance, Progressive, Flow. They have those meetings. But that's just an example. And I know that the value, especially for baby boomers, is that continued growth and knowledge acquisition is what keeps your mind flexible and healthy. And that's a concern. My mom is like the very first, she's on the initiating end of baby boomers. And like all of the things that she can do if she is willing to fail a little at it first. And I think that's what we need to get, is it's okay to fail at something a little first. It's okay, because mistakes are what teach us.
It's a really interesting discussion because there are so many different places that we can get a fixed mindset. What equals a positive statement, what equals a negative statement, what's useful, what's not useful. And it can keep the head spinning.
Yeah.
I think it's a particularly human dilemma, to get philosophical for a minute, because if you look at animals, look at dogs, for example, they definitely do not have a fixed mindset. They will adapt in a flash to changing circumstances. Their fixed point is what they want, which is to be happy and to be satisfied. But depending on what's going on around them, they'll adapt and change tactics or what they want or behaviors in a flash. And so I think they're, in a funny way, they're letting us human beings know that fixed mindset is not always helpful. I think there are probably some circumstances where fixed mindset is helpful, but not when you want to grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and somebody had brought up earlier, like the playful attitude. And that's growth mindset is that playful attitude that you see in puppies. You know, experimenting and playing is how they learn to do their life skills that they need to know. And that's why it's so valuable that we engage in play at every age. It's not childish. It's exercise. It's for physical and mental. Like playing around with things. That's how we experience things on a low risk so that we can perfect it when it's a little higher of a risk.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
I'm always going to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Anybody else before we wrap up? Any other? Do you have questions and comments? I invite you to join in now. Challenge your growth mindset and jump in.
Well, what I'm running into a lot, this is more, well, when I'm working with people, I'm working with career changers, and very early on, I have them, you know, writing about what they learned from what they did in the past and what they want to let go of, what's been challenging to them, and then their current situation, you know, what they hate about it, what they can do in the interim so that they give themselves some space to explore. And also their negative self-talk. And I think that the growth mindset gives me even a better conceptual framework for that. But I do a lot of things to elicit what this stuff is, that's the tapes that are running in the background that they're not quite aware of or they actually think are real. And I give them written exercises about it and do a bunch of stuff for them being you know, stuck in ways that they're not aware and start to loosen it up. But what I'm running into now is I'm being approached. I get my business through referral, and I'm getting a lot of referrals. But when I'm speaking to people, you know, about how long it usually takes to change and how long a job search takes, that's like not acceptable. Like they don't want to spend money at all. They want it immediately. Like they're in so much fear. Like there was somebody who had run a successful business and, and it tanked last spring. And when I said, most people, like there's a lot of variation, but most people take like 3 months to figure out what they want to do, make a plan and start in a new direction. Because he wanted to know. I said, but again, like that's other people's performance. That doesn't mean yours. But he was like, I don't have 3 months. And then I was like, well, what do you have? He said, 2 weeks. And, so he was like right out front with it. Like, and I have to know upfront if I'm going to be investing money that it's actually going to get me. I want a guarantee. And so I'm talking to a lot of people.
2 guarantees in life, death and taxes.
Yeah. So he was very out front, and he actually may end up working with me because he sent me a whole bunch of more questions today. But I just think of him as like, this is it. This is what I'm running into, is people are so scared. That's the way I'm reading it, is they're so scared. And also that he's been hunkering down, hoping it would disappear for 6 months already. And now he needs it immediately.
Yeah, that's the emotional hijacking meets the wine theory. If you want good wine, it takes money and time.
Yeah.
So like, you want to work, Taco Bell is probably hiring.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying if he wanted, it does take time, and there's no way around that. But like, why not look at plan B and find some way to, like start there. We'll get some money coming in for you. But anyway, so that's what I'm running into, which I've never run into that before. And I'm running into it like almost everyone I speak to, and I'm speaking to a bunches of them every week. is in some variation of that place.
It seems to me that the more virulent virus that's going around really is fear
Yeah.
and a reaction to the physical virus. And
Yeah.
I too am finding so many people, it's interesting, growth versus fixed mindset. I'm running into so many people who are locked down and fight or flight and freezing and playing dead, just like hunkering down out of fear. And I'm also involved in a group of people who are so excited about possibilities and so open to learning and growing and changing and adapting. And the contrast is just startling to me. My clients are stuck in the fear, but the people that I'm working with in a mastery group are so up. And it's a wonderful thing to try and bring some of the infectious ability to see opportunity into that sense of feeling locked down, you know. And what I found is when I ask people, what's the one thing that you can do now today that will start you on the path? It releases them a little bit from the fear. What's the one small action, tiny action that you can take that's step one towards making the change for the better, so that they're at least in action, even if they can't have their business back tomorrow? You know, something to just unfreeze them and melt them a little bit from the fear. So just a suggestion. Anyone else? Well, Beth, I want to thank you. This was a wonderful presentation, very provocative and interesting. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your efforts.
You're welcome. I put my email.
Yes.
If you have any questions, and if you're interested in any of the trainings that CEF offers, you can go to contact at creativeeducationfoundation.org, which I understand is the world's longest email. My apologies.
This is very interesting. I see your name in our chat list and in your email is Slazak. And yet in our email newsletter, copy to our errors, is somebody spelled it Slezak.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Okay, I'm sorry. So ignore our notice to you all, and please get it correct from the chat. It's BSLAZAK, B Slezak, at creativeeducationfoundation.org, or contact.
It's my fault. I married a Polish guy, so
that's all right.
100% on me.
Please get it right. And thank you very, very much, Beth. Let's just take a few minutes to see if anybody has any news you want to share with each other. Any updates?
I'll let you guys all enjoy your chat.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Beth.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to unmute. I think we're unmuted. Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Any announcements? Anything you want to share, Phyllis?
So I just want to remind you all that next week, next month, Danny Fox is going to be our speaker. And for those of you who've been members for a while, she presented to GSCA in 2017, and she did a program on EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. She'll be doing something else. She's probably the person I've ever met who's qualified in the most different things, and we're still deciding what it's going to be. Possibly Ericksonian hypnosis.
Yeah, Danny was a very dynamic speaker, and she's a really wonderful healer. Where did she move away to? Do you remember?
She moved away to near Ocala, but she's actually right now, her parents are in, like, don't quote me on this, but one of the Carolinas. And she's in the process of moving up to help take care of them.
Okay. Yeah, because she was local. She was in Bradenton when I had invited her to speak a few years ago, but she gave a great presentation.
Yeah.
She was a really good speaker. So I hope you will all join us in November. And if the gods are kind and she remembers, Gail Condrick will be facilitating the next meeting. So you won't have to see my mug doing this yet again. Always happy to step in, but I would love it if some of you would volunteer to please facilitate the meetings. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with me. I can't think of anything else. We are going to be talking about what we're going to do for our December meeting. Are we going to have a regular meeting? Are we going to have a little online party of some kind? And what I would do is I would invite you, if you have any suggestions or ideas, to email either Phyllis or Joan or me. And the three of us will get together and we'll figure out what we want to do. And then we'll check in with our great wise one, Deb. And
Why don't you send a survey?
Okay.
What
Anybody?
people would like in December.
Okay. Why don't
And
we
maybe include the hour, instead of doing it at lunch, maybe do it at 5 o'clock.
Okay,
That's another
we can
option.
ask people.
Cocktail
Sure.
party.
Yeah, and maybe we can do a couple little online games or something that would be fun. It's a lot of possibilities. So it might be nice in the holiday season, considering. I remember the year that Windsor Castle burned, and I think it was the same year that Princess Diana died. I'm not sure. Queen Elizabeth, at her end of year speech, called it her annus horribilis, or Latin for horrible year. And 2020 has been like that for a lot of us, at least even those of us who are thriving have had really big challenges. So
It could-
to wrap
could
up the year in
be-
a fun mode.
Yeah, it could be, it could be that, or it could be a regular meeting, but where everybody contributes.
Yeah,
A Christmas story, their favorite Christmas or their ruined Christmas, or, I think there's a ton of ideas you guys can play with.
we'd love to do something creative, and then we'll roll into the new year. And it looks like, as of now, it looks like we're not going to be meeting in person anytime soon. So we'll
For a while,
continue
it's still,
online
yeah.
until we can.
Yeah.
We will until we can.
Yeah,
All right.
we
Anything
could
else?
we could wear party hats.
Yeah.
You're lucky I didn't dig out my Halloween costumes yet.
Yeah.
Really. I just wanted to invite you all, as part of, this is my own ad, as part of my own rebranding, I started a Facebook group, and I'm doing a lot of short videos teaching about emotional mastery. And there will be a couple of silly ones in there too, because I can't help myself. So if you'd like to join, it's not cluttered up with a lot of junk. It's on Facebook. It's Dr. Dr. Leslie Austin, LESLAE AUSTIN. I'll put it in the chat. And please, I invite you all to join and come and join the festivities. I'm going to be giving some free classes in a few weeks, by the way, free labs and workshops and all that. So I invite you to join. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd just like to share. Well, I wanted to ask about Art Emmerich. I haven't seen him for a long, long time. How's he doing? I know he had a health issue, 6 months or so ago.
He hasn't been a member for quite a while. And so unless you get once in a while, I get a email from him, and I write back and I go, Art, how are you? And I get nothing back. So
I know he had a a while back.
Yeah, you should just call him. My guess is if you really want to know, call him. He'll probably be delighted to hear from you.
And I wanted to tell you, West Coast Black Theater is having outdoor entertainment right now, and it's so safe. And it felt so good. So you just go on their westcoastblacktheater.org, and it's light up the night. And they have, so it's about $40 a person. And they have a 6-foot circle that 2 people can sit in, but if you're a single, 1 person would sit in there. But the circles are like 10 feet apart, 10, 12 feet apart. And they performed outdoors, you sat outdoors, you went in single file, you had a temperature check. They came to you to take your dinner order. They had 2 bottles of water on the table free, and they had a little menu with just pretzels and chips and sodas and wines, but they had a thing of bug spray, which you didn't need last night, thank God. But it was so well done. They had 2 chairs and a little table for everybody, but it was so safe, and they were absolutely at the top of their game with their performance. It was all Motown and feeling good, and if you wanted to dance, you were supposed to stay in your circle, but make sure you didn't block. And the parking was real easy because they only could sell like tickets for 84 people or something. And it was $40 per person. It was just fantastic good time. It was
That's
wonderful.
great. Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else?
Next 2 weeks, they're doing it till like November 2nd or 3rd or something like that. And I think they're selling their tickets in 2-week increments, because if it rains your night or the weather's not good, they're going to give you another night.
I was just wondering, I don't know if you have the ability, Kitty, but if you can't speak, I would love to hear from you. I've been thinking about you a lot. And
Well, I can't get unmuted for some reason.
Oh, no, we can hear you now.
No, you're there. We can hear you. You just muted yourself. Hang on. Do it again, Kitty, because we heard you and then you're muted. So unmute yourself. There you go.
All right, there I am.
Now we hear you. Yes.
Okay, well, I enjoyed the session and very much. I'm getting ready to get a new knee in early December, and otherwise mostly dealing with care for Henry. So it's an interesting journey. Lots of ups and downs.
Just one knee, not both?
Well, I wanted to do a bilateral, but because of COVID, the residential rehab that you need to go to if you do both at the same time is not available right now. So it's a matter of doing one now and one in a little while, probably, because they're both, yeah. So I'll see how that goes, but trying to figure all those pieces out. But life has I like some of the questions. I want to think about them in a different way. So that was helpful today, and it's good to see your faces.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good to see your name if we can't see your face.
I know. I don't know why I can't do that. I have a fairly old computer, and I probably just didn't do it right. But
on the bottom of your screen, on your bottom of your screen, next to where the
she might not have a camera.
Yeah, she's on a PC.
I don't know on this old Mac that I have. I didn't do it on my iPad, so that's probably it.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Anything else before we wrap up?
Just wish everybody a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to everybody.
You said it was too early to put on your Halloween costume. I was in the store yesterday and they had a whole Christmas shop set up.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, it's not even Halloween. They had nothing for Halloween.
Home Depot and Lowe's had Halloween costumes at the end of August. And I would like you to note that now that it's almost Halloween, we have skipped Thanksgiving decorations almost entirely, and they go straight into Christmas. Seriously, they're already having Christmas stuff up. No Thanksgiving. I object.
Yeah.
Halloween last year, I was both Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, front and back, and all over the place. So
okay, so having been a buyer, the sooner you put it out, the better your chance of selling through it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
that's why it goes up so early, and
it's
the best solutions or the best selection, I should say, early. And if you wait till the last minute, whatever you know, it's all picked over. So most of it's imported junk from China, and they have to buy container loads of it, and it takes forever to get here. So, you know, there's lots of reasons. It's not because they're trying to like rush the holiday.
Assigning motivation, we were just making the observation.
Yeah.
We used to be able to time things. Christmas stuff went out the day after Thanksgiving. Never. It
always went up earlier. I was a buyer in the 70s, and you couldn't time it like that. You just couldn't.
I guess it just depends on your perspective. This was my memory.
Right. That's what most people have, this memory, but it's not.
It may not have been real, but it was mine. That was my fixed mindset here.
We've been liberated from clock time since the Betamax first came in, and you could watch a TV show not live, and that was like amazing, and you didn't have to be there on the clock. So we've all learned.
So notice that the day after New Year's is Valentine's is up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to make the New Year's Eve relationship last at least till February.
So one of the groups I belong to decided that last week was New Year's. That 2021 was 15 months long and 2020 is officially over. So when you talk about mindset, realize you can play any game you want. The challenge is to remember that this is play.
And on that note, let me wish you all a wonderful month of play and happiness and productivity and whatever it is your heart's desire. And we'll see you all in November.
All right.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you all,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.